Welcome to Desi Matters, the podcast where we amplify the voices and stories that shape the South Asian community. I'm your host, Kunal Patel, and in each episode, we dive deep into the issues that affect us, whether they're conversations happening within our own communities or debates playing out on the national stage. Today, I want to talk about something you've probably noticed if you've been driving around England: flags. Union Jacks on railings and lampposts, St George's crosses painted on roundabouts, and even zebra crossings. Entire estates draped in red and white. On the surface, it looks like a wave of national pride, but in the past few weeks, the sheer scale of it has sparked a real controversy. For some, it's harmless patriotism. For others, it feels like an uncomfortable close to the far-right imagery and anti-migrant sentiment. So the question is today, what does flying the national flag mean in Britain today? And how are you really affected by it? So if we look at the history side of it, and we back up a little to talk about the Union Jack and the St George's Cross, they've always carried layers of meaning. They're national symbols, yes, but they've also been co-opted at different points in history, used to signal everything from pride and prejudice, from unity to exclusion. In the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, and even in the 90s, many of us grew up associating the St George's Cross with the National Front and the BNP, the British Nationalist Party, far-right groups that didn't exactly welcome immigrants or celebrate diversity. For South Asians walking past a painted wall with the Red Cross, it didn't always feel like a celebration of England. It felt like a warning sign, a reminder that we're outsiders. And in our own neighborhoods, we feel the very presence of something that isn't right, and some people making uncomfortable gestures towards us. It wasn't just a flag on a wall. It was a symbol that carried fear, exclusion, and a sense of otherness. At the same time, though, England's football culture has tried to reclaim the flag. You see it everywhere during the Euros, during the World Cup. Faces are painted, car bonnets are covered, pub windows are decked out in red and white, and the St George's Cross. You've got streets covered with the England flag. There's excitement, right? There's community and national pride. But outside those events, the baggage probably still lingers. The flag carries echoes of the past, historical prejudice, colonial undertones, and a sense that being visibly English while looking visibly different can make you a target for suspicion or ridicule. For many of us, though, this duality has always been confusing. We want to feel pride in the country we live in, the country we support sports in, the country we call home. But can we, when the symbols meant to represent that country have sometimes excluded us? This tension is exactly why reclaiming the flag matters, not to erase history, but to redefine it for our own terms and under our own terms. Ultimately, how we choose to interpret and display these flags says as much about our hopes for the future as it does for our memories of the past. If we can collectively embrace the flag as a symbol of shared dignity, resilience, and belonging, then every time it's hoisted on a lamppost or painted across a street, it becomes a chance to affirm our place in Britain, not as just participants, but I believe as co-authors in the ongoing story. However, the challenge lies in fostering honest dialogue, supporting one another through discomfort, and celebrating the mosaic of identities that make our communities. Because when we look beyond that fabric, what truly does matter is the spirit of unity, respect, and progress that we weave together day by day across this country we all call home. Now, bringing this into the present day, with so many flags appearing in towns across England, it's not just during sporting events, but every day. And people are asking, is this patriotism or is it politics? Some argue that it's just people wanting to be proud of their country, which I totally agree with that side. And I'm one for all for supporting our nation and the nation I was born in. After all, other nations celebrate flags without controversy. Why can't the English? However, there is a flip side to that coin, especially for people of colour, migrants, and children of migrants. The sudden surge feels exclusionary because the truth is, the flag doesn't always represent us all. And let's be honest, when an entire neighborhood starts painting zebra crossings red and white, it's not just pride, it's sometimes a performance for the social media, right? And performance will always have an audience. So when I think of it from a community standpoint, here's where I think it gets personal. For many Desis in the UK, our relationship with Britishness is already complicated. We're taught to be grateful, to blend in, to claim British identity, but not too loudly. Did you know that according to the latest census, British Asians make up 7.5% of the UK population? However, we contribute 22% to the GDP of the UK. That means, as British Asians, we are giving back 3 times more than a share of the population. And that proves just how vital our community is to the success and the growth of the UK economy. And yet, when it comes to symbols of Britishness, especially with the flag, we often hesitate. We often go for our own. We go for Indian flags, we go Pakistani flags, Bangladeshi flags, Sri Lankan flags. Why is that? Because for years, the Union Jack and the St. George's Cross have been co opted by groups who push exclusion, nationalism, and division, like the BNP, like the far right. They tried to make the flag as a weapon of us versus them, instead of a symbol of shared belonging. But the truth is, the flag does belong to us. It belongs to us too, right? Our parents and grandparents came here. They worked the double shifts. They did the jobs white Britons didn't want to do. They built businesses. They saved the NHS. They kept public transport running. And they raised their children within Britain. And now we are those children who represent Britain on a global stage. We've not just invested our labour, our love, and our culture, but our future also lies within this country. And not only our future, the future of our children, the next generation, the second generation, or the third generation that are born in Britain. So for me, I'm reclaiming both the St. George's Cross and the Union Jack as a symbol of support for the country I was born in, the country I was raised in, the country that I have many family members in and memories that I have created in, and the country I support in sports, and also the country I live in and the country I call home. So ask yourself, is the Union Jack meant to include us all? Or is it a subtle reminder that we're still guests, no matter how many generations deep we go? For me, it's definitely the former. We have to reclaim what we believe is ours, because we are all part of the same Britain. Because who gets to define what British pride looks like? Who gets to wave a flag without suspicion? And who gets side-eyed for being too foreign? We don't question a Spaniard waving a Spanish flag, or we don't question a Greek who waves the Greece flag. So why are we bothered about what and who waves an England or UK flag? It's time we strip the flag of its old baggage and give it new meaning. Not fear, not exclusion, not you don't belong here, but hope, unity, and pride. Let's reclaim it as an act of patriotism. Let's redefine it as our own, and also a symbol of every South Asian restaurant, every corner shop, every Bhangra night, every Diwali light, every Eid gathering, every cricket match, and every Desi kid who wants to grow up singing the British national anthem in school. Because this is our Britain too, and the flag flies for all of us as well. So let me give you some questions to ponder around. When you see the Union Jack or the St. George's Cross flying in your own town, what do you feel? Pride? Do you feel uneasy? Or do you feel nothing at all? I understand around this because for many British Asians, it can be a mixture, right? But for me, it's pride of the country we call home and the freedom that affords us all. It's uneasy because of the historical associations and exclusionary movements or colonialism, but that's all in the past now. We have to move forward with the times and look forward and not in the past. Because sometimes, yeah, it may feel unnatural, but it's just a flag. And the context does matter. And the context that matters is that it's for all of us. And for me, I'm proud to be British. I'm proud to be English. And I will raise the Britain and England flag because I'm proud to be British and I'm proud to be English as well. So, another question. Do you think it's possible to reclaim these symbols in a way that feels inclusive? Personally, I think, why not? Obviously, for me, absolutely. Symbols are not fixed, they evolve with people and time. We visibly celebrate flags in contexts of diversity, community, and shared achievements, be that in schools, sports, local events. British Asians and other minorities can reshape its meaning. Look at in sports, we're getting more and more South Asians involved in sporting accomplishments, be that in cricket, be that in football, be that in golf. We are redefining what it means to be British Asian in this country. And I think, yes, we can reclaim these narratives and feel inclusive at the same time. Another question to think about is, should British Asians or South Asians especially be more visible in conversations about national identity? I think so, yes. For too long, our voices have been underrepresented in debates and about Britishness. Our economic contributions, as I've mentioned earlier, our cultural influences and community building efforts are part and parcel of the national story. Being visible in this conversation challenges that narrative of British identity of being narrow and exclusionary. And another thing, why is it that in Britain waving a flag can feel political when in another country, say the USA or Canada, it's not? My opinion is probably because history. You know, the British Raj ruled most of the world in the 16th, 17th, and 18th century, all the way through to the 19th century. The flags being tied to colonial times and nationalism, and obviously in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, tied to the right wing, right? The BNP. But I think multiculturalism can be openly shared. We have many multicultural cities in the UK, such as London, Birmingham, Manchester. And, I think, why can't we? As a British Asian, I'm very proud of being British. I'm proud of my Indian heritage as well. We are very multicultural Britain. And why can't both things be celebrated? I feel proud of waving an Indian flag. I feel proud of being British. So I'll wave a British flag and an English flag because I was born here. Just because you can be one doesn't mean you can't be the other. And another thing I want you to think about is, what does actually being British mean to you? Not legally, because you've got a passport, but emotionally. For me, I think the biggest thing about being British is about belonging, having contributed and shared experiences within the country that I was born, supporting my neighbors, celebrating my country's achievements. I think feeling your identity, it's all in the complexity of being recognized and valued. I watch football and I support a certain football team from London. And, football matches I've been to, I feel part of the culture. I go to festivals and, again, feel part of the culture. I do public service, that's all part of British culture and culture exchange. I've been through that as well. So, you know, being multicultural, that gives me another string in my bow. And that helps me share stories about my culture to people that may not experience it, to give them an education lesson or tell them something they may not know. Because I strongly believe that we learn a new thing every day. And I think being British is the sharing of those stories and being able to be many different things and wear many different hats because, like I said, I'm British. My ancestors are from India, so I'm Indian. And I live and love the food, the culture. I speak the language, obviously. And it's about sharing experiences. And that's what British means to me. So, thinking about this topic and the topic of flags, flags are just fabric. That fabric, however, carries history, carries meaning, and it carries power. It has the power to unite as well as the power to divide. It can signal pride and it can also signal prejudice. But moreover, it can celebrate achievement. However, it can also intimidate. As a South Asian in Britain, we've always had to navigate the fine line between belonging and exclusion, from the streets we grew up on, to the classrooms we learned in, to the workplaces we've built our careers in. We've constantly been reminded that identity here is layered, complex, and sometimes contested. The current wave of flags and the debate about what it means to be British and the questions about who gets to claim national symbols are just the latest reminder that belonging is not automatic. It has to be claimed, redefined, and sometimes fought for. But here's the truth. The flag can belong to all of us. It can represent the kids of migrants scoring goals in local car parks, the small businesses that fuel our economy, the festivals that light up our streets, the generations that have built lives here. Reclaiming it isn't about ignoring history. It's about writing a new chapter, and that's what I think we should be doing today. One that reflects who we are, the contributions we make, and the love we have for this country. Flags are fabric, yes, but they're also mirrors reflecting the values of diversity, identity of the people who choose to embrace them. And we, as British South Asians, have every right to see ourselves reflected in them. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thanks for listening. I hope you learned something in today's episode. And if this episode sparked something in you, share it with your friends, leave a review, and hit the subscribe button. And remember, identity isn't static. It's something we create, question, and redefine every single day. Join me next time as we continue to explore the issues that matter to the Desi community. Until next time, stay safe, stay visible, and stay curious. This is Kunal Patel, signing off from Desi Matters.